Mel, my buddy's here. Let me click off this thing. There you go. We got the man behind us. Since we're going to talk about him, we might as well show his picture. hook myself up with a little green screen so I can put anything out there that I want. We're gonna wait a few more minutes and then we'll chat about diminished chords and their use as dominant chords and all that stuff. Let's see who else joins us in the next. We'll give it another 2 minutes or so. I may change this time to meet and do this live stuff just because it might be a little too much in the midday. You know, maybe I'll pick a after dinner thing or something. We'll see. Now, right now we got some other people have jumped on. Does everybody hear me okay that's stopped in? Guitar sound loud enough? Voice clear enough? Oh, I inverted it. I put it on a mirror image. So are you seeing me lefty? I'll flip it around here. So does Wes look lefty? Does Wes look lefty? I put it on a mirror image, so let's go the other way and see what I look like. So do I look lefty to everybody? I'll change my setting here. Let's go with this. How's that better? Am I still lefty, guys? You'll see it flip in a second. How's that? We good now? Wes looks lefty. I'm going to have to flip Wes. Except he's keyed in, so we'll keep Wes looking that way for today. Hey, Clive. All right, let's get on with this. Let's talk about diminished chords. All right, I got a whole bunch of stuff that's, I'll get you guys hip to. I'm taking all my material here, and I'm going to try to publish it in different phases. I reset up a website. I actually updated my website, so you can see what each phase entails. And if you guys have any interest in it, I'm going to try to get it printed properly as opposed to me writing with a music pen. Anyway, let's just start out with diminished chords. So let me pull the first one up. You should see it soon. All right, the first thing I have written out. There are a few different ways to look at diminished chords. If you look at this one that just posted, one of the common ways to look at a diminished chord is a passing diminished chord. What does that really mean? Well, in a diatonic chord progression, a passing diminished chord is chromatic movement from one diatonic chord to the next, allowing you or giving you a chromatic bass motion. So when you move from 1 to a 2 chord in the key of C, for instance, then you have this chord, which is a sharp 1 diminished 7th chord, which takes you to the 2 chord. You've heard it in a million standards. Or a sharp 2 diminished 7th chord taking you to the 3 chord. Okay, that's pretty standard for a diminished 7th chord, allowing you to have chromatic motion. Now, if you understand the world of secondary dominance, what this really is a secondary dominant. I'm changing cameras now so I can actually see you guys. What it is it's a secondary dominant chord. So a secondary dominant chord taking you to D minor is A7. If you're not hip to secondary dominant chords, you could check it out. I think that's my phase 3. But they're dominant chords that lead you in the second row of material. So let's say your primary chords are 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, 7 chord, 1 chord. Those are our primary chords in a key. Secondary are a second row of chords to take you to those. What they afford you is a leading tone in each of those dominant chords that take you to the root of those primary chords in the key of C, since we're talking the key of C. So a quick demonstration, not to get too sidetracked from the diminished chords. 5/7 of 1. Okay. And I'm going to try to flip cameras here so you see my hands. Let's just move this to here. 5/7 of 1 is G7. Here's G7 going to C. 5/7 of 2, if D minor is 2, it's A7 going to D minor. Okay, and if you see, there's a leading tone, C sharp, that takes you to D. 5/7 of 3 has a D sharp in it, taking you to E minor. 5/7 of 4, 5/7 of 5, 5/7 of 6, and then 5/7 of 7. Back to 1. And that's secondary dominant chords. Now, if you start thinking of diminished chords as dominant chords, you will realize that a passing diminished, sharp 1 diminished 7th, is really nothing more than an A7 chord with the 3rd in the bass. So now, I'm changing cameras again. Not to confuse you even more, if you take any diminished chord and you think it, the chord tones as either the flat 9, the 3rd, the 5th, or the flat 7, or simply move one note a half step down and you will get a dominant chord. So let's just pick a C sharp diminished 7th chord. I move this down a half step. I have A7. Okay, let's put it back. Let's move the C sharp down half step. I have C7. Put it back. Let's move the G down a half step. I have F sharp 7. Put it back. Let's move the E down a half step. I have E flat 7. And if that happens, and you do know that because the chord's built in minor thirds, it moves symmetrically and repeats itself and inverts automatically. So you have those 4 dominant 7th chords. Now, we talked about the passing diminished chords, but more, I guess importantly, is understanding the next group. And if you look down on this page, the symmetric diminished chords. They are based on the symmetric diminished scale, which is whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Any chord you build from there is also symmetric. So you'll see a lot of people play a 13 flat 9. It moves the same way, minor thirds. Okay? So they are symmetric. Now, you hear a lot of people talk about, well, I run the symmetric diminished scale when I play the blues. Running any scale, to me personally, for the most part, it's not so much a compositional device. If you're just going to go, kind of boring. But if you choose notes as targeted notes from there, that's fine. But let's get to what Wes did. Okay, when you listen to Wes do a chord solo or solo with chords, he uses what Berkeley called a dominant approach. This works whether you're soloing with chords, whether you're building a chord solo. In simple terms, you have a chord that you're playing on. Let's just say it's G minor 6. Okay. What is a 5/7 chord that would take you to G minor? Some kind of a D7. Well, we know that that's a D7 flat 9 or an A diminished chord, diminished 7th, or an E flat diminished 7th, or a C diminished or an F sharp. Okay, so here's what Wes did. He would go from a minor chord, 5/7, back to minor, 5/7, back to minor, 5/7, back to minor, 5/7, back to minor. No matter where you do that, okay? So if I'm sitting playing any minor 7 chord, and you have that 5-1 motion, so you hear him go. Okay, and that's how he utilized it when comping with chords. So you go in 5 back to 1. Now, if you with a search Barry Harris online, great bebop piano player, great educator, he built a scale, and he calls it the diminished major scale. But what it is it's a diminished, a C major scale with a diminished chord superimposed in it. So when you play it, you hear the chords going, you hear the scale going 1-5, 1-5. I don't think about it that way. I think about it as my chord is G minor, and that's 5 taking me back. 5 taking me back. As opposed to not harmonizing that as a dominant approach, and listen to how stale it sounds to me. That sounds, here has kind of forward motion to it. That doesn't mean you can't play a G minor 9 chord or a G minor 11 chord. You can, but check this out. So if you go, so you add motion. So it's based on a symmetric diminished scale, but that minor third principle doesn't only have to relate to the symmetric diminished scale. That minor third principle pays dividends because you can use that in a number of ways. Let's take it out of the diminished arpeggio, the diminished form for a second. Let's just say I had 2-5 going to F. All right. So here's 2 G minor 7 5. Now listen, look at this. I moved just a straight minor 6 chord or dominant 9 chord, however you want to look at it, in minor thirds. If you look at this chord now, it has a C sharp, it has a G, it has a B natural, and it has an F sharp. They're all substitutes, and I got a B natural. Now, most people would have said that's major 7 if you want to call it a C7 chord. Yes, so what? Because it resolves a half step below the fifth of F. Or, so here's that thing again. Works for me. And that goes back to what we spoke about in the past about using minor 6 chords and moving them in minor third movements to create more dissonance or more dominance. So you can take that minor third principle that is pure, I guess you could say it, with the symmetric diminished scale, and extend it to moving minor third targeted chords or targeted harmonies to make your resolution. I think what George does and what Wes does has a lot more hair on it than just playing just a symmetric diminished, that at least in my ear, it sounds contrived where, let's just say we're playing the blues in G and, and we're going to the C7 chord. Well, you could play F minor or B flat 7. You don't have to have it be with that on it to just go to here. So if I'm going, now I'm back to 1. Now here's F minor. Okay, because I'm thinking, or C7, pure C7. If I did that, then you'll hear it better. So Wes uses that. Now, last week, Rosmel mentioned to me, he said, well, what about what Wes does when he plays a major 7 or a minor 9 arpeggio for um, the dominant chord, okay, in a blues? Well, it's let's talk about this for a second. Let me just make sure I covered what I wanted to cover here. Yeah, let me just flip this other page on there for you so you have it if you want to look back, okay? Take a look at this page coming up, and you will see the diminished chords and the 4 dominant 7th chords in the basic symmetric diminished shape. So take a look at that, and you'll see the analyzation of what those notes are in the pure symmetric diminished scale thing. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. You know, I mean, it's cool, but to me, it's just, it sounds too contrived. That's all. You know, and I'm not, and look, I'm just as guilty if it falls under my fingers and I hear it at the moment I do it. Sometimes I get a little angry with myself if I just fall into a patternistic kind of thing. But because I pride myself in targeting all the chord tones, and if scales occur, they occur, but they occur through the development of a solo, as opposed to just running a scale or a chord scale. Inserting a chord scale, cut and paste. Anyway, so let me get back to what we spoke about last time, and I want to introduce you to one thing in Wes's single line stuff over a blues, and it has a lot of other parallels. If you take, which we talked briefly last time, if you take a major 7 chord and you extend it through all of its basic chord tones, go up through the 9, the sharp 11, and the 13, you have what I guess we can call the grand high mystic ruler arpeggio, the grand arpeggio. So let's just do it, since we're playing the blues in G, which is synonymous with D minor 9, or F major 7, or B minor 7 flat 5. They're all the same animal, to a point, depending on what the root is. So if I take an F major 7 and make it go up to the 9 sharp 11 and 13, that's the F major 7 grand arpeggio. And if you look at it, so now, if I'm playing over G7, you get the Wes sound. And when you go to the 4 chord, you make it a B flat or a G minor. Back to G. And when you go to D7, it's A minor or C. Back to 1. So that's where you hear him get all those shapes, because he's taking that grand arpeggio. Now, let's just say it's G minor, all right, which is the same as B flat major 7 or E minor 7 flat 5, or C9, okay? Let's start it from G minor. So you get a different kind of freedom, I guess is the best way to put it, because you're not always just going as opposed to you get some pretty nice melodic shapes that appear that way, So here let me just play a quickly little bit of blues in G. Something in playing a little bit of the thumb brought to mind the dominant approach to me. Something that maybe I should point out. That line that Wes plays where he goes, what that is it's really just 2/5. But how would you harmonize that? All right. Well, I think that it would be. That's all A minor. And then this is D7. Now watch. D7, A7, D7, D7, chromatic from below, back to 1. Turn around. So if you're going to do a chord melody, you wouldn't have voiced that all as G. You wouldn't have noticed how I put an A7 in there, bringing me back to D. My target is D, so I went here. But look, it's a diminished chord. Move one note. Look, it's A7. Right. So now that line. I just threw that in. Just came to mind. Anyway, so if I'm harmonizing something like that, okay, A minor, A minor. Now I could use that. I could use C major 7. I could use any A minor. I got the melody note is in this case goes from C to E, which is now the going from the 3rd to the 5th of A minor. Okay, I could have made that note some kind of an E7 if I wanted to, which would bring me back to A minor. Right? So now I got, so the melodies, so we have A minor, E7, A minor, here's my D7, D7, A7, go back to D7, D7, any kind of D7, back to D7, I'm still on D7, 1. Okay, yeah, here's a common one. Those are all little quickie little turnarounds, but that's how you work this into a chord melody. The dominant approach. There were two approaches when we took arranging at Berklee. One was the diatonic approach, and one was the dominant approach. So I'll move that chart. Sorry, Jeff. I'm going to kill it. I'll get it out of there. Should be gone soon. Anyway, the dominant approach, the diatonic approach, let's just pick something in the key of C. Let's just say the melody goes on a C major 7 chord, E, third, and it goes up to F. My romance, it could be, right? Well, you could do this. But I hear it as a dominant thing because it's a pickup. Now you could do now let's just not think of My Romance. Let's just say it's a C chord and the melody just goes there are bells on a hill, okay? That's kind of similar melody to that. So would you do this? Boring. Would you do this? Well, here's the diatonic approach. Going right up the diatonic chord progression. I think that's still boring. But if I take that F and I make it some kind of a G7, okay, or any substitute for G7 that I can come up with, let me just brainstorm here, okay? Now I made it this, which is a diminished 7th chord, which is nothing more than the G7 chord, okay, or a D flat 7th chord, or a B flat 7th chord, or an E7 chord. So now I got, okay, there are bells on a hill. All right. I could put a 2 chord in front of it of any of the dominant chords I just said. All right. So let's doll it up that way. Let me change that a little bit. Okay. So these are things that you can do with understanding secondary dominants, and you know, so that's what diminished chords are. They are a secondary dominant that moves in minor thirds. Move any note down, you will get what dominant chord it is, or you could think of it as, if this is, you want to take that and say it's a D7, it's an F, it's an A flat, it's a B. And of course, when you move it in minor thirds, and if you move it in step motion or a half step one way or the other, you wind up getting a turnaround, or 5-1, 5-1, 5-1, or 5-7, a 5-7, a 5-7, like I did with that. Oh, I'm sorry. That's that minor 7 concept. There was something else I wanted to lead into here. Here's a for instance of secondary dominance. Okay, a very simple song, "Over the Rainbow." Okay, and it's really just somewhere over the rainbow. 4 chord back to 1. Okay, now I'm going to use secondary dominance and minor third principle, however you want to consider it, whatever handle you want to give it. And so here we got soon as I get to a 2 chord, I don't even think about a 2 chord being a 2 chord. It's married to a 5 chord, so it's all a dominant sound to me. So anyway, those are the things that Wes did. Those are the things George does. Is there any questions? I've been ranting. I'm glad that Wes is still lefty. I'll have to flip him around. Let's see if I can get Wes to go righty while you guys dig up some questions here. Yes, and I was just reminded by my dear friend Jeff McElwain, who you should check out. Man, he's a great educator. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, do whatever you're supposed to do. The voodoo you do so well with this whole YouTube stuff. And I am going to. Yeah, let's do this one for a change. We all know these people. Who's that guy back there? How's that? I guess Wes is in the right place now. There we go. Think of Clive. Think about diminished chords being dominant 7th chords, and at some point everything becomes a resolution, to where to the chord you're approaching. So, and the mini chord progression that's popular in American music is 2/5. So, if you have a dominant 7th chord, and you have 4 dominant 7th chords equaling which is the diminished chord, right? And you think about them as a 5 chord, and I used to joke around with my students and say, well, if you consider it a 5 chord, and it's a team, it carries a 2 chord with it, kind of like Roy Rogers and Gabby Hayes. I'm showing my age, or Abbott and Costello. So whenever you have a 5 chord, okay, let's just say, for instance, an A flat 7, okay. Well, you can put a 2 chord in front of it before you make it resolve to G, where I want to go. So, A minor 7, D7, flat 5 sub is A flat 7, so I can do this, and Wes did that. If you guys are familiar with the tune 4 on 6, here it is. He just went from A minor 7 okay. He used a flat 5 sub with the 2 chord that travels with it, and made it a little mini progression. 5/7 to flat 5 sub with the 2 chord that normally travels with it. Let me change my camera so I can be heads on here. So let me show it to you again. Here is a little bit of 4 on 6. Here's the chord progression. This is 2, 5. here's the flat 5 sub. He puts the 2 before it that would travel with that, and it brings you back in. Okay, Wes did it a lot. Of course, we talked about this last time with the minor 6. The magic of the minor 6 chord. Well, so you can play on that. So you have this. And it brings you back there because it's all about where you target. You know, I was messing around. Here's a little ditty. I was messing around with this. George had this crazy line he did, and I'm trying to remember. I think it was in, I don't know. I think it might have been in his version of Take 6 or something. But it was something like. So I'm like, wow, that's a sequence. So I just want a minor third, and then eventually resolve back to C7. Sorry. There's my third, targeting my third. Anyway, everything's targeting, and moving forward in the progression. So, targeting chord tones, to me is the most important thing. You can, like I said earlier on, I can't be a slave to more than one master, and I'm either targeting a chord tone that is an established chord in the piece or the melody, or a chord that I want to superimpose, like doing that flat 5 sub stuff. Here's another just little tidbit I want to throw out there if my buddy Jeff is still here. The other thing is using your melody and embellishing your melody by first targeting the melody note and seeing if you can play off of that. So with Jeff, I think I was chatting and we used the song Hard Times. So if you target the melody note, so if it's E flat 7, okay, and that's your melody note, be able to ascend or descend from there. Now it's going to go to A flat 7, and the 9's in there. Then now to C minor, and G's in the melody of the song Hard Times. Now, what are you going to do with C minor? Then that's E flat 7. I'm on to A flat. Back to 1. Now I'm on E flat. So pick your melody note and work that in your in your solo and build off of it by stopping yourself and saying, okay, can I speak on the chord starting from that melody note? So if G is your melody note and it's an E flat 7 chord, and I'm kind of just diarrhea of the mouth right now because I want to get this out to you. If E flat is your melody note and the chord is E flat 7, I'm working off of that. Now if the next chord is A flat 7 and the 9 is in the melody, so I said before, it's kind of like playing chess with yourself, but it does break break down some walls. Um, it certainly did for me. Another thing that I want to turn you on to, real quickly, is that um, let's just say I'm playing an F7 chord, or let's just say I'm playing it, an F7 chord. Okay, F7 chord. Now, how many times have you heard George do this? Okay. Of course, he did it like this. Again, that's nothing more than the C minor or the C minor 6, or the F9 or the E minor or the A minor 7 flat 5. Now I landed here on an A. So if I'm going to continue on that being an F7 chord, well, that's the third. So what else can I add to that? Well, my ear might tell me to do this. So, or let's just say it's F going to B flat. I'm there. That's my leading tone to B flat. Now, if I want to continue on F7, now I'm on an E flat. How far away is that from resolving to B flat 7 if I'm doing it? I mean, that's just how my ear hears, and that's how I think. It's kind of spontaneous now. It wasn't in the beginning. So anyway, any questions about Wes's use of diminished chords as dominant chords? Any questions about how dominant chords are diminished chords? And I will see if I can pop up real quick if Clive is still with us. Is anybody hearing static in the line? Is it I'm wondering what that static's for. Hey Jeff, is it disturbing enough you can't hear it? I got people mowing their lawn outside, but only when I speak. It might be a good thing. Is it audible? I mean, can you still hear? Jeff just sent me a text. It seems to be on all your audio. Oh, that's weird. Is it keeping you from hearing what I'm saying? It's fine to continue. Okay, I'm gonna have to find what that is. I thought I was pretty clear for a while. Anyway, where was I? Not a big deal. Okay, you guys have any questions? I just rambled on about the diminished chords and the minor third principle. It's part of my what's going to be my phase 5. Once this stuff either gets published or reprinted in packets, they'll be on my website. For a few bucks, not a big deal, not a hard lift, but it lists everything going from from the building of a major scale, and the approach to understanding what diatonic means. So I just want to, Clive, do you understand the secondary dominants and what they are? Because I'll dig up the page and throw it up there for you. But okay, Steve can hear us good as well. Good. You know, I have to keep bouncing back and forth between my eCam because it doesn't show me your the printout of our chat. Anyway, I guess what I want to do is I want to reiterate before I wrap it up. Okay, dominant approach is a dominant chord that takes you to the chord that you are on at the moment. It's as Wes used it. I showed this in the past. G minor, diminished chord, which is nothing more than a D7 flat 9 chord, to another minor 7 chord, to a D7 flat 9 chord, to a minor chord, to a D7 flat 9 chord, to a minor chord, to a D7 flat 9 chord. And again, moving in minor thirds. Or all right. If you understand that there's only 3 dominant chords, this is something that I've mentioned a few times. But if you understand that if you want to call this a D7 chord, okay, or any of the 4 other chords, which would be D7, F7, B7, or E or A flat 7, okay. Those are 4 chords. You move it a half step down. Now it's G7, E7, D flat 7, or B flat 7. Move it down again, and now you have C7, A7, E flat 7, or F sharp 7. And if you do it one more time, you're back to the chord you started with. So that goes back to the same principle of a symmetric diminished. But in the world of Wes and George, they don't do it in a strict sense of sticking to the symmetric diminished. They just do it in a minor 7 principle. So they say if this is 4 chords, okay, back to the D7, then what travels with D7 as a 2? A minor. Okay, if it's a B7, what travels with B as a 2? F sharp minor 7. Okay, if it's a F7 chord, what travels with F7? A C minor. What's the last one I didn't do? An A flat 7 chord, what travels with A flat? E flat minor 7. So it's sorry. So here's a quickie little thing. I'm sure many of you have played Autumn Leaves. So if you're going from okay, so what I did is I took this F sharp minor 7 flat 5 and I played C minor 7 F7, bringing me to E minor. Okay, now could I play on that? Sure. Here it is, F sharp minor, C minor. Back to E minor. Okay, I'm just superimposing those chords and I'm playing on those chords. Anyway, we went quite a bit to the left and quite a bit to the right today. Feel free to, email me, track me down, find me on Facebook. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to elaborate more and talk more on how you can make use of these. It's a pretty vast subject, and I'm still, I'm not done with any of this. I'm making progress in my own way as the rest of you will. So it's always an ongoing pursuit. So, any questions, shoot them at me. Otherwise, we'll call it a day until I guess next week. And I hope this is a good time for people. I'm kind of questioning what is a good time for the majority, so I can get more viewers and keep you guys interested in for sure. So, any questions? I'm having a good time with my green screen. Thank you, Clive. I guess it pays that I've worked 25 years at CBS News, so. It's 10 p.m. with you. That's all right. We'll keep this time. Hopefully, we'll drag some more people in. All right, guys, if there's any questions, find me, track me down, and check out Jeff McElwain, my buddy. Very informative. Cat knows a lot about stuff I never dabbled in, the generations of blues and rock and roll that was a little bit past my my DNA. I came from Mike Bloomfield and Eric Clapton and those things, and he has that going on, plus all these other people he mentions that were part of bands I've never even heard of. So he's very, very astute to all that, along with being a fine jazz player and rock player for sure. So check him out. All right, I guess that wraps it up for today. Any questions? I'm just going to sit here and doodle for a while and see if anybody shoots any questions, because there is a time delay. And, give it a few minutes or a minute or so, and then we'll call it a day. Top of OTE lines. What is OTE lines, Rosmel? Top lines. You mean like... using top lines. That's what you meant. Top lines. Mr. Rosmel, shoot me a private message. And any of you guys can shoot me a private message in whatever way you want, and I'll shoot you my email address. I'm not sure if I want to make it so public, but so I can answer some of these questions. I'm thinking that's what you meant. Mr. Rosmel, just give me a thumbs up quickly if that's if that answered it. If not, you know, just track me down and I'll figure out what you mean by top lines. All right, guys, I'm going to call it for the day. See you all next week.